So in today's video, we're going to discuss the difference between macros and VBA. So macros are something that are generally recorded. So this is, if I was to record a macro here, and I'm going to move this picture over here, and then I'm going to move it over here, and then I'm going to move it back, and I stop recording. That is a macro I've recorded. So you can see here, I've got two files open, but you can see here, this macro, if I run it, it very quickly will move that over and move it back. So that is a macro. But within the macro, so if I go back, I'm going to go the normal way I go, which is to Visual Basic. And let me bring up the file that we're looking at. So here's the macro that we just recorded. This here is VBA. So VBA, which stands for Visual Basic for Applications, is the language that a macro would be recorded in. Now, generally, a macro would indicate it is something that is recorded. A lot of people will call a macro something that's been actually written out and typed and designed. So what we were just seeing that came up on the screen before this, a lot of people will call this a macro. This is well-written code. This is written in VBA, just like the macro is. But I would not really call this a macro. So a lot of people will use the term macro to describe any kind of code that is in, especially Excel. So strictly speaking, a macro is something that is recorded, but this is, it can often be called a macro as well, but it really isn't. This is just VBA. I typically try not to use the word macro. I can tie, you can see here if I run macros, these well-written codes, these subs are being called macros. It's being defined as a macro. Technically within the system, it is under the macro section, but I would not call these macros because these are not just recorded little pieces of data or little pieces of code that have been written. These are well-written things. So I usually try not to use the word macro at all. Often I'm also not recording anything like this, so I'm not recording quote-unquote macros. I'm writing subs in modules and in sheets. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Please also share. Please go ahead and check all my other videos on my page. Have a great day.